Good morning, everyone. Gordon here, back after a little hiatus. As you guys have seen, I haven't posted in a little while. For you guys that are in the know about CoA, you guys note that the Alpha Realm Rexar went kind of radio silent for a little while. The devs were working on some stuff in the background. They've decided to retire Rexar, which was full of old bugs, old issues, bugged characters because they were too old, and add some lingering effects from past patches that didn't exist anymore, leading to a lot of problems. They've decided to release the beta, so Voljin is now the CoA beta up from the alpha. It's technically a closed beta because you do need to pay to get the key to get in. I say technically because everybody that had access to Rexar already has access to Voljin. So if you could play Conquest of Azeroth before, you can play Conquest of Azeroth now on Voljin. Of course, your characters are gone. It's a part of the course for the test realms. But also, the Ascension helpers are giving out a lot of invite codes for free in the Discord. You just have to go and ask. You can just add them. A lot of people have been getting in that way. So it's kind of a semi-closed beta. They're kind of throttling in the amount of people getting in, but they've been fairly generous with the codes already. This beta is said to follow the Bronzebeard schedule, which is to go up from small level caps all the way to the top, and then they're going to do some focus testing on different content, and then we're primed for release. There's no real time frame yet, but Gordon take one. I think it's going to be probably around 8 or 9 months. I would expect a 2026 release, but I think it's going to be like winter break, Christmas time type of deal, because I don't know. I don't want to not say they're not good. I just don't know how they're going to do it so much faster than Bronzebeard did when there's so much more stuff. So I'm thinking around 8 months. I could be surprised either way. It could go out longer. It could be up in 5 months. Who knows, right? So my first impression of the beta itself. So right now we're at the level 25 cap, which is an interesting spot. I mean, of course, I would have liked a little bit higher, but I don't think it's the worst place to start. It could have been 15, could have been 20, right? So I'm definitely completely fine with this. It's supposed to go up fairly quickly, so here's hoping to that. We don't spend like 2 months into level 25. I think a month top is probably what we're going for. We've had a lot of class changes, and we've had a lot of world changes. I'm going to start with the world changes first because I won't have to get back to that afterwards. So the CoA world is now shared with Bronzebeard. So if for you guys that know Bronzebeard, what that means is you get all the new revamped locations, the new World Forge items you can find, like the Sparklies world items. You get the I don't know if we fully get the RPG mobs, but there is the new mobs. Let's say in the human area, there's now the casters within the Defias spot, right? So I do think we got some form of the RPG creature rebranding. Not that I've tested it too much because I don't really test a lot of leveling outside of when I need to. So this is, I think that's all really positive and good. The second thing is mobs feel kind of strong, at least stronger than before in CoA. So you do not feel like a superhero from level 1 where you can just run from mob to mob to mob and just completely destroy them. I wouldn't say you're all the way to classic where you need to eat after every mob, but you definitely have a little throttle between like 2, 3, or 4 mobs depending on your class, where you can chain them, but you gotta stop. You can't pull like 1 or 2 mobs is fine, but you can't pull like whole camps and just chain them down. Like if you do that, you need like all your cooldowns, and you're gonna scrap by, which I think is fine. It's completely fine. There's a happy medium, and I think we're close to it in that sense. I'm not a classic kind of player, but I do think this is good for the game in general. So on that note, they got my seal of approval for what it's worth. The class changes. So there's pros, there's cons. I'm gonna speak a little bit about my own experience, and I'm also gonna talk about the people I play with, the people in my guild that are all old CoA players, And I'm gonna try to get also the vibe of the community from the people that are newer, from the Discord, for what I see in the newcomers chat, people that have asked me questions or something. A little bit of the vibe I'm getting. So the first thing is a lot of the classes. The term my guild has adopted is classicifying. A lot of classes, some of the most, like some of the weird intricacies that would appear quite early in classes that would be a little bit weird, have mostly been dealt with. Like they've just been removed. In some cases, it's led to classes feeling much simpler and losing a little bit of depth. Right now, is that good? Is that bad? I guess it depends. It depends if they went overboard with it or not, which is very spec dependent. Some specs definitely feel like they went all the way to TBC, and some specs definitely feel very close to old CoA. Now, I think it depends what kind of player you want to be, what you prefer. I think there's positives and there's negatives in all of this. The biggest thing would be I've seen less of the old I'm level 2 and I think this spec is too complicated. Like I've only seen one person say that, and I think they've chosen the class that starts with like the most ability. They literally said they don't want to read it. In which case I'm like, well, I'm sorry. If you don't understand it and you don't want to read on top of it, and then you're gonna complain, you're not getting my pity. Um, one of the big changes was raid buffs, like 30-minute raid buffs. You know, like we used to have like a different bunch of them, but now we have the classic ones. So we have like Kings, Mark of the Wild, new names of course, but you know it's the same buff. I think it's fine. It's gonna help the devs probably tune around these buffs to be had for the raids and the dungeons and stuff. So no problem with that. I also think they've given it to a lot of classes, so you really will struggle less to have like specific buffs that only like one or two classes brought before. Everything is like got by like 3 or 4 classes. So the odds of you not having a buff in your raid went down dramatically, which I think is incredible. So that's one. Another thing is some 2 healers got transformed into supports. So Fleshweaver, which is the Blood Mage healer, and Grove guy from Primalist went from healers to supports. What does that mean? Well, first of all, it means that we have 2 less healer specs in the game. Second of all, what it means is those 2 were infinite resource healers, which is something the devs wanted to eliminate because the theory would be if you have 10 healers but only 2 have infinite mana to heal because they heal with rage and etc. Right? Well, you're always going to bring these 2 because you never have to worry about them running out of resource, and they can full heal the entire time. In practice, in theory, good idea. In practice, there's other specs that also have infinite resource that didn't really get gutted, like Moon Priest from Starcaller. Is still kind of going infinite, which is a different issue altogether. It's good that we have more support specs in the game, I think. Very unique, but I'm very sad for the healer players that lost their spec. Rip my main healer, Rigomi. She's not very happy about that. Her Fleshweaver's gone. It's just unfortunate. I think if it didn't used to be a healer, we would not have this like averse reaction to it. So it's definitely kind of like an old player issue. So for me, I think it's good. It's more supports is good. Four support specs only before. For 70 specs didn't feel like enough. 6 now feels more adequate. A lot of classes lost like a bunch of like defensive cooldowns and stuff like that, but it just more helps like not having like the issue of having too many spells is gone. If I hear anyone say they have too many spells now, they just have 2 bars and they're clicking, and you can absolutely enjoy the game at that level if you want by just not putting a lot of spells on your bar because you do not need them to kill Yetis and Alterac. So my experience, I've played Templar, of course. I've played some Witch Hunter, not as much as I thought I would, and I've played Cox and Sun Cleric to bit levels too. my experience with Templar was my first character I leveled. I leveled with some of my guildies, so I'm a little bit biased because I leveled in like a tree man, which made things significantly easier because we would just rain track everything around before it really did damage to us. So that's kind of like a fake take, right? I can't really speak to it, but it felt quite good while leveling. Felt quite strong. As you would expect from like a two-handed melee that has self-healing. After that, I tried leveling my Witch Hunter. The removal of Slash, which was the melee rage generator, and then the addition of the Dead Zone for the range attacks, really left a weird and bad experience from 1 to 10, where you would just barely get 2 shots off, not have enough rage for your melee attack. You get melee attack, you get some rage from your melee swings, and then you use your melee attack once, and you just wide swing the mob. Like, you can weave, like weave shot, right? But it's super awkward. And you do that from like 1 to 10. It did not feel very good. And then I was pretty disappointed when I got to 10. I didn't really like what they did to Bolt Slinger. It doesn't move as much as it used to, so you can't actually kite every mob and kill everything with Ricochet instantly. Darkness was removed, and it's now Houndmaster, which is basically they toned down the entire gun thing, and they just made it really like a Darkhound pets pack, like BM Hunter. We needed one in the game. That's fine if it's Darkness. Just not for me. It's just a little bit too simple for my personal taste in the long run. I would just get bored with it. Didn't test too much Inquisition, mostly because I didn't get 2 one-handers that I wanted to put on. But from what I read in Talents, it seems like it's the same thing where you just don't really have rage generation. And I played a little bit of Dark Knight, which they've definitely tuned down for the low levels, but I think it's going to scale perfectly fine and be good. I played Cox. Cox is really strong, feels good. War is feeling very good. Hellfire is super strong. The Imp is like outscaled right now. It's doing infinite damage. And Defiance feels perfectly fine. I'm worried about like the late game because I'm reading the talent tree and stuff, and I don't really know how much the passives are going to scale to really help it be really good. I think it's going to be fine, but I don't know that it's going to be quite excellent. Sun Cleric, I feel, was simplified quite a lot, especially Valkyrie. Valkyrie lost the old like Maelstrom weapon type of mechanic with the instant spell casts, which I think is a shame. It's much closer to Fury Warrior than to Enhancement Shaman now, which is not quite to my taste, but I'm sure some people like it. I mean, it is now the Warrior Titan script spec. And that's been mostly the classes that I've really spent some time playing. I just didn't have, time to level everything, and I won't level everything 25 anyway. I'm just not going to do something I don't really enjoy and want to do. Some of my friends have had different experiences. Barbarians feel super strong. Crodo feels pretty weak, apparently. Apparently the spells were so weak that they ended up, like, wanding, which is definitely unfortunate. I know the devs have been already, like, buffing them, like, the low-level ranks of the spells to make them better. So here's to hoping that it's, like, a week 1 issue only. The other thing I would say is we've noticed interrupts from the classes, like, in general. We went from, like, everybody having an interrupt to a very low amount of people having actual interrupts, which is very scary in the long terms, because level 1 to 25, you don't need it, so people haven't been complaining, of course. I mean, we've been complaining, but that's all we do, we play WoW. But I'm really worried because we're going to start, even at the... I'm not worried for the leveling portion, like, you'll just get by, right, whatever. But the thing is, at level, like, 40 and 50 and stuff, you start getting mobs that cast shit like Fear and stuff like that, which is really not fun. And not having a kick to deal with it is going to start becoming a problem. People are going to start complaining, but I'm really worried about the end game, where in dungeons you need to interrupt a lot of stuff, mostly to reduce the damage on the tank from all like the shadow bolts, but also to just move mobs, like just to move caster mobs. If you want to bring them back, if you don't have a kick, you're gonna just need to make your entire group LOS everything, every single pull, which is gonna be really weird instead of just being able to kick a mob and move it. So that's going to be an issue. That's not even counting stuff like mind controls and fears and sleeps that are in dungeon. They can be really, really dangerous. Um, we'll see how that goes. I mean, there's some traction to try to get our kicks back, or at least get some form of our kicks back. That's one of the hills that I think is gonna be difficult in Mythic Plus, even raids. But you know, in raids there's only like one or two really kick fight, and we have like 15 people. So for what it's worth, I'm not super worried on that. But you're gonna go from like an abundance of kicks to like a few people having crucial kicks, which is not necessarily the type of difficulty that I would really want. I mean, we're gonna run into the issue too when Mythic Plus comes out, where you're already thinking about your raid buffs, right? And then you're already got because you're gonna need some of them. Like your tank's gonna need stamina, it's gonna need Mark of the Wild, you're gonna need kings for everyone, and then you're gonna need attack power, you're gonna need spell power depending on your comp, you're gonna need agi, strength. Like you'll need a few of those, and you only have 5 people, so you're gonna have to choose. And I can already kind of tell you, you're gonna want kings, you're gonna want Mark of the Wild, you're gonna want attack power, you're gonna want spell power, one of the two, because you're gonna just because you only have 5 people, you're gonna be forced to bring either or. So I'm gonna tell you it's gonna be spell power 9 times out of 10. So now you only have 2 buffs. If it's spell power, you're probably gonna want like intel, and then you have like a freebie, and then your tank's gonna want stamina for sure. So if you take all that into account, and then you add the fact that there's really a limited amount of kicks in the game, you're gonna like there's gonna be a sweet spot of like the most raid buffs and having like 3 or 4 kicks in the group. You're just like it's just gonna happen. I think if it doesn't change, some specs are gonna be ostracized from the group finder. Like they're just gonna have a bad rep for having like quote unquote like a lesser good buff and no kick, and then on top of that you're not even guaranteed to do like the top damage. Like you still need to be a good performing spec. You need to be a tanky tank, you need to be a high damage DPS, you need to be an efficient healer on top of everything else. So I think there's a danger. I'm not saying anything's happened, and I'm not saying 100% something's gonna happen, but I can definitely see like a danger on the road with this. I don't want to be alarmist. I'm just, this is kind of just like my feedback from what I see, 1 to 25, right? And speculation for the future. I just want to point out like a couple of good things though. Like some people might not like some changes, but I think overall the changes are good for the game in terms of like class rotations being a little bit more approachable. I think there's still challenge enough for optimization and stuff to be interesting. And I also think the world feels pretty good. I like the new raid buffs. I think they're better than the old one we used to be. The new passive row to the right of your spec tree really tells you kind of what your spec is about in like a passive and free way, instead of being like weird scalings put into the middle of the tree that sometimes people would just not take because they didn't see the point of it. I think it's good. I think it's also like on a wait and see type of deal. Like 25 is good, but like at 40 people are gonna have much more of their class to play with, and then at 60 is really when the meat and potatoes is gonna be. We're gonna be able to do dungeons, Mythic Plus, raids, and we'll see. That's gonna be like the nerve there. I hope the devs can really like be ready for tuning stuff, preparing themselves for balance and some inevitable changes. Thank you everyone for listening. I'm gonna try to do some class videos probably again or something, going for some changes for specs. I don't know when that's gonna come out, but I'll try to make it sooner than later. Thank you everyone, and have a great day.